Something more?
Yes. So I love the feeling of being in the zone in sports and
Yes.
dominating in sports. That feels great. I love the feeling of watching my favorite sports team win a championship.
Yes.
Feels great. And I love,
Do you love their opponents that help them focus into the championship?
I can see that that's helpful, but you want them to lose. Like, I'm a Flames fan, and I saw a guy walk in with an Oilers hat, and it's a hockey team. And we have these kind of things against. I don't want to get lost too much on that, though. Also, I like the feeling of being sexually aroused, so I like all of those things, these states. But what I don't like is the feeling of guilt and shame for loving hockey, even though it's somewhat barbaric as a sport to some people. Or loving sexual experiences that some might like and some might not, or music that some might like or some might not. And that's why I don't know why I care so much about that, what other people think on that. But I want to be able to release that guilt and shame, and what I thought is the best way to do that is to rev up my feeling of powerfulness, and then that can just kind of go away on its own, as opposed to trying to think my way through every topic.
Well, there is something to focusing upon what you desire enough that there's strong momentum, because your desire, especially when it's a very strong desire, a strong desire that you focus upon often, will dominate and it will carry. But we want to talk about this business of guilt and shame. We want to talk about you caring about what other people think. We want you to reintroduce yourself to your own guidance system, where in connection with that you will never feel guilt or shame. You will only feel empowerment and enthusiasm and love and appreciation. And so what is this business of caring about how you're being responded to? We touched on it earlier, but it's about trying to deal with it in terms of words or behavior rather than getting a good vibrational footing at the start of it. You've got to get out ahead of it emotionally. You've got to get out ahead of it vibrationally, because if it's vibrationally out of balance, then what you will attract is more evidence of the vibrational imbalance. So let's say you're standing in your now and you're feeling pretty good. Lots of people in the room. You were discovered in a large group vibrationally by the energy that is exuding from you. The power of your desire in relationship to your resistance was really in good enough balance that you lighted up in a way that we were able to pick you easily from a large crowd. This is all really good news. And as we've been visiting here, you've come into some clarity. You've helped a lot of other people come into some clarity, and you're feeling pretty good right now in this moment. So let's say that. It's mostly true. So here you are in this moment, feeling good, and then a subject comes up to which you've had some concern. And you turn your attention to it, and you relitigate it. You, from your now position, try to go back and change something that you've lived before. And in doing so, you take on the personality of those that you perceive are judging you, and you do the same thing to yourself. So you relitigate the experience, and you come to the conclusion that no matter what it was, and for whatever reason, that you were wrong in having that experience. But you're doing it in your now. You can't go back and relive it, and you can't go back and change it. But in your now, you can control the way you feel. So we just have a very straightforward question that we want to put to you. If your work is to do your best to get into the receptive mode, if your work is to do your best to feel about yourself as your inner being feels, if your work is to do your best to feel as good as you can feel in this moment, is there any value in going back to a time and retrying your case and finding yourself faulty and applying guilt upon yourself? Is there any value in doing that now? So you're not doing it on purpose? Is that what you're telling us?
Well, I guess the only value would be if I thought that I could release that from the past to be feeling better now.
You did release it from the past, because when the past was the past, it was released. But this is the present, and you've dragged something from the past that you don't want into the present. It's not about releasing the past. It's about focusing in the present. It's about in the present aligning with who you are. Esther had an experience where something happened and some people were unhappy with her, and now she's living the ramifications of their unhappiness. And for just a moment she was saying things like, I should have just done such and such, and then that led to a little bit to and before that I should have done that. So she's going back before the momentum, when the momentum was very small. If I just done something differently then, and then, and then, and then, and then. And once she sort of came out of it after a good night's sleep, we spoke to her with such clarity that she told others, Abraham yelled at me this morning. And what we said to Esther is, line up with what you know to be the truth of this situation. Line up with it as you mean for it to be. Don't water yourself down by trying to see someone else's point of view that you can never see. Stand in your knowing of what you know and line up with what you know to be. Now, what we really mean by that is stand up with the goodness that your inner being knows that you are. Stand up with the clarity that your inner being knows that you are. Stand with that knowing of who you are, and do not allow yourself to take on any garbage that anybody else from their inferior feeling, insignificant, vulnerable feeling selves that have been shining on you. Don't take that stuff on. Many of them mean well, some of them don't, but most of them mean well. But whatever, most of them are not practiced in what they're thinking. If everyone around you was really good at paying attention to what they're thinking about, you would feel so good about yourselves. Every one of you would. If every one of you were surrounded by others who were tuned in, tapped in, turned on, who were in love with life and in love with you, you would feel so radiant and so beautiful and so wonderful about yourself, because you'd be getting it from them. But you're looking for love in all the wrong places. Don't look at it from them. They're not practiced and they're not good at it, and they don't care about you the way you think that they should. It's not their job to love you into alignment. They're not going to do it. And when you're looking for others' approval to love you into alignment, you're going to come up short every single time. But when you're feeling for the thought about them or about yourself or about anything that is in concert with that way your inner being feels about it, so that you're now in alignment with who you really are. Now as you stand in your now, sure, there's all kinds of stuff you've lived that maybe if you were living it again now, you'd live it differently. But so what? None of that makes any difference. You can't get it wrong, and you'll never get it done. And the reason you can't get it wrong is because it's never done. You're always standing in a new and powerful now, and your inner being is always adoring you and knowing what you want and what the path of least resistance is for you to get from where you are to where you want to be. Your empowerment is a self-assigned experience, and you find it one good feeling thought at a time, one good feeling thought at a time, one good feeling thought at a time. And you will never get to who you are and to who you mean to be by regretting anything that you've ever experienced. You can't even remember what the particulars were of the incident when it came up. You don't even know what the energy dynamics of it were. You cannot from your now even remember what the momentum factors of energy moving were about. You've got to let the past go. You've got to let it be what it was for. What it was for was to fill your vortex full of who you really are. And now your purpose is singular. Line up with who you really are, you see. And when you do, you will discover the passion that the source within you has for all sorts of things that you have been assigning as inappropriate, because you've been guided by so many others who don't want you to follow your own passion. They want you to follow their path. They want you to be a slave to what they want. Sometimes they mean it, and sometimes they don't even know what they mean. But most people are very sloppy in their thinking, and you cannot be if you want to live happily ever after. You've got to think with precision, by caring about how you feel. And then it doesn't take long before the momentum of your thoughts carries you into predominantly good feeling moment after good feeling moment after good feeling moment after good feeling moment. It's the way it is supposed to be for you. It's who you are. It's what's in your vortex. It's what your inner being is guiding you to. Just be playful about it. Do you feel like you could more easily let your past go now than maybe before? And do you feel less likely to try to make your past part of your present? And are there things in your past that you want to remember? Of course there are, but forget them anyway. Because the habit of going back is sort of treacherous territory. Don't go back. Be more present in your now. and watch what happens.
Last night I watched on Discovery Channel a show about lions, so the beasts, and feel myself when I watch something like that they just do and be what they are. And so in this releasing the beast that has become kind of the theme now, like that's the feeling I have, is I want to just do that and be okay with it for myself. So what you shared really helps that, so thank you. And my back doesn't hurt.
And then on the other channel there was that program about the guilty lion. He just laid over there under a big old tree and regretted everybody had eaten.
Cool, thank you. My back doesn't hurt anymore either.